Live. Okay. I think we're live. Maybe, hopefully. But okay, let me see. Let me see the chat. Is chat telling me it's alive? I hope I'm live. Okay, there we go. I see the highs now. Yay. Okay. Hi guys. It's our last virtual write-in. So happy camp. Last week of camp, actually. It's our last virtual write-in for this season. So feel free to say hi in the chat and just tell me how camp's going for you. What's the weather like over there? Is it hot? Is it storming? And as you can tell, we have a special guest with us over here. So wait, let me introduce myself real quick. Okay, I'm Josie. I'm the program associate at Nano, and my pronouns are she, they. So hello, and here's our guest. So take the floor, Prince.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me here. Hello everyone. For everyone that's just starting out, thank you for being here. My name is Prince Shakur. I guess I'll just share a little bit about myself since I'll be hosting this write-in. I started writing when I was 12. I use he, him pronouns. I currently live in New York City, but I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. And as I mentioned before, I started writing when I was 12. I fell in love with it. I started writing short stories. I started writing novels. I started writing all kinds of fiction in high school, fan fiction on Wattpad, Amoeba, fanfiction.com. I'm throwing out these things to kind of see if anyone out there writes fan fiction because I love connecting. But yeah, I have been, so I've been writing since I was 12. I studied creative writing in college, and for the past 7 or 8 years, I've been a freelance journalist, an essayist, a copywriter, writing a lot about TV, film, social movements. And last year, I published a memoir called When They Tell You to Be Good. I kind of describe it as my political coming of age, a lot about being Black in America, a lot about being from a Jamaican family, about my travels, looking at my family's history. So I kind of explain all of that to kind of say, like, I kind of write in a lot of different genres, and I'm really excited by people that write in different genres, or if you're really dedicated to one particular genre, I'm also interested in that. So if anyone wants to share in the chat what kind of genres you write and why, you can totally let me know. Also let me know where you're from. I'm currently in New York City right now. It's raining a lot outside. It's kind of scary. It's also been really hot the past few days. I know I see a lot of people mentioning in the chat how hot it's been. But yeah, thank you for being here for this write-in. This is a part of National Novel Writing Month. So it's a month where you try to write an entire novel in 30 days. I did National Novel Writing Month about 2 or 3 times in high school, and I never made it through it. But I tried. And it was always good practice because I feel like, for me at least, whenever November at least rolled around, I was always in the middle of writing something. And so I always just used it as a way to really dig into whatever project I'm working on. But yeah, we're going to do a virtual write-in today. So I'm going to take you through a few different prompts throughout our time together. And then we're going to have some time to discuss some things, share our thoughts in the chat, whether it's about what you wrote during your sprints, or if you want to engage with some of the other things that might come up, because I'm super flexible and I kind of want to talk about what everyone else is interested in. And I'm looking at the chat. Some people write sci-fi and fantasy, YA memoir, fan fiction. I want to know what kind of fan fiction you all wrote. I tried to write a trilogy based off of Twilight, but it was the gender swapped. And the first book was called My Personal Stalker Melanie. The second book was My Personal Savior Melanie. And then I think the third one was supposed to be My Personal Enemy. I can't remember it. I want to rewrite it one of these days. So that's why I need to know what all of you are writing. Someone said, I really like writing more slice of life stories. Someone else said new adult sci-fi. I'm seeing some people talk about urban fantasy, which is really cool. I love all these genres. I don't really understand sci-fi that much as a genre, but I'd love to know how to write it. Um, yeah, keep letting me know what genres you write in, people out there.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
great seeing all these genres. Um, and also, I'm always it's always exciting for me to like hear like when authors or writers get like their start in fan fiction because like I think it's just like a great place to just get started with writing. Or you don't even have to get started writing there. It's just fun to do.
yeah.
Like I know when you mentioned all those sites, I like just get like flashbacks to all those sites that like I grew up reading fan
Oh
fiction
yeah.
on.
Yeah. And it makes you feel famous. Like when you really get into
Yeah.
fan fiction and people like your stories and I don't know, I felt famous. I remember I wrote a like a high school slasher and I posted it on like there's this website for PBS Kids for I think tweens and I posted it on there.
Oh,
Famous. I felt totally famous. So I love just yeah, writing online to me is really fun.
I see some people are also like leaving what fandoms they like do fan
Oh
fiction from.
yes.
Um someone like just Michelle says Power Rangers currently is my writing partner. That's so
Oh,
exciting. I love there's so much you can do with Power Rangers.
whoa. I I'm gonna look up Power Rangers fan fiction after this. Uh oh my God. Someone said I'd like to read that Twilight fan fiction rewrite. Whew. Maybe next year. Maybe next year.
Hey, it can be a good nano project.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember I literally I wrote the whole book. I didn't revise it at all. And then I printed it out as a hardcover and I designed my own cover and everything. And I remember I ordered like 5 copies of it. And that was the first time I really felt like a writer because I thought, oh my gosh, I wrote a whole book. But I guess on a side note, I was always impressed with people during NaNoWriMo who could write like 120,000 words or
Right.
80,000 words. Like that to me is just incredible.
Okay.
Um, Hobbit fan fiction, Power Rangers, Legend of Zelda.
Ooh,
Yes, 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 yes.
lots of
Ooh.
good stuff there.
Ah, okay.
Um, okay, speaking of writing, we should probably get to writing.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
Okay. So do you want to do the first prompt or I should do it?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay, so just in case you haven't done average writing before, we usually start with a prompt and then we discuss them. Our first prompt is a quick warm up, so it's just 5 minutes long. It is actually based on one of Prince's care packages. I don't think I've sent this one out yet, but it was one of my favorite tips. So it is answer these questions for your main character. What's a secret that everyone knows? A secret that only some people know, and a secret that only that character knows. Um, Continue with other prominent characters if you've been fill that. And yeah, so that should be 5 minutes. I put it in the chat for y'all to read. And yeah, if that prompt doesn't you don't feel like doing that prompt, that's okay. You can do whatever you want these 5 minutes. Okay, where's my timer? Okay. So I'll write 5 minutes and go till 3:30.
All right. I'm gonna respond to this too.
And that's time.
We did it.
We did do it. How'd that sprint go for you, Prince?
Um, it was good. I am in the middle of writing a novel right now, and so I chose a sort of love interest character
Ooh.
to, and I didn't really get through each secret, but I kind
Mhm.
of wrote towards the secret that only Keith knows about. This Keith is the character. And so I think it kind of helped me figure out a little bit of his psychology and his relationship with his father, which I've never really written about before, like from his perspective. So it was good, honestly, really good. How was yours?
It was pretty good. I did it on my main character, and I found the hardest one was like the some people only some people know this
Yeah,
secret because I was like, um, how do I like determine that? Like, how do I know like what characters would know this but not others? I feel like I just like sat there more and just thought about like um my characters like closeness with other characters,
yeah,
and that was interesting, I think.
yeah. How would you describe the character you wrote about, like personality wise?
Okay, I feel like she's like the like the peppy, like really wants to help others things, but kind of like sacrifice her own well-being to like put
Okay.
others first kind of character.
Yeah,
So I'm like, that's like a weird kind of character because they're like also like you think they're like super extroverted, but they're like guarded in a lot of other ways too. So
yeah,
it made
yeah,
me think really hard about it.
yeah. Oh, I like that. Ooh, okay. I'm looking at the chat, seeing what people are saying. They're putting in their word counts. One person wrote 198 words, 116, 236, ended up being a diary entry, 182. Just before you went live, I was writing about my main character's doubts about bootlegging venture. Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Someone said the hardest part for me was keeping it from the perspective of the main character instead of the secrets about the main character. Yeah, and I want to share, like, I basically learned about this prompt like a week or two ago, and ever since I learned about it, it really makes me think a lot about subtext in writing and how a lot of
Mhm.
writers suggest like you shouldn't write exactly what the characters are thinking. No one really says exactly what they feel, and so it's interesting if you look at the main characters in your book and you kind of think, oh, what are they trying to hide, or how does that show up? And I think when we understand that more, it allows more subtext to be built into how the characters are saying things or how they show up, which to me is just makes writing so much more engaging. And it
Yeah.
also, yeah, it really lit up a light bulb in me. So I'm glad that people worked on this. Someone else said 145 words. And I put what I wrote into a word counter. I wrote 238 words.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice. I write on paper for Sprint, so I'm not gonna try
Ooh.
and count that.
Yeah. Ah, yeah, I love this prompt. For people out there watching, did this prompt make you realize anything you didn't know? Like sometimes I like prompts because for me, it's kind of like a stream of conscious, so I don't always know what's going to come out. And that to me is a part of what's interesting when you do these little bursts. So I'm wondering for people out there, did you find out anything you didn't know? Any weird realizations? Or if people want to put their favorite sentences they wrote down. I always
Oh
love seeing
yeah.
that during workshops. I'll try to look through mine and find what I think my favorite sentence or phrase is. Oh, okay. Okay, I'll plug my little sentence in. Other people should do it too. I'm reading through the comments. Someone said I managed two secrets. One was a family secret. They can change into animals.
Ooh.
Oh, okay, this someone else said this prompt actually feeds into what my story is about. Someone else said it helped me figure out the which my main character thinks is scary is actually helping them and why. Okay, see,
Ooh, fun stuff.
it's a good prompt. I'll plug into the chat my favorite. Oh, maybe this is too long of a sentence.
Yeah, it's a character limit, which
Oh, okay. Let me pick a different one then.
oh, I like this one thing from Ellen. I like prompts because sometimes you learn something new or take the characters in a great new way. This time just made me think more about my main character's problems. Yeah, I also like that about prompts. I've said this before in a virtual writing, but I like these prompts a lot because even if you don't use them in your story, I kind of treat them as like fan fiction for yourself. Because
Mhm.
fan fiction is always about like, well, not all the time, but it's always like these stories like outside of the main plot. And you can sometimes get into like character analysis or like what ifs. And it's like a very like examination of like what you can do with this story. And I
Yeah,
feel like we should do that with our own stories too. Be your own big fan. Write your
yeah,
own fanfic.
yeah. I think speculation is something really fun in stories because I feel like a writer always wants to kind of know more than what's on the page. And so
Mhm.
doing these little exercises to speculate, you really kind of open up the world of what you're writing about. Or I think about this one writing instructor that told me your story can happen in like 3 rooms in a house, but as the writer, as the creator, you should know what's happening in the other rooms in the house to kind of
Mhm.
know it's affecting what's on the page. And I'm going to plug my line in that I really liked. My line was that lesson stuck with Keith, the power of a love that demanded you stay.
Oh, that's good.
Um, yeah. Oh, someone said they wrote on their birthday. Happy
Oh, happy
birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday. Does anyone else have a birthday? I had a birthday last month. I'm a Cancer. If anyone wants to share what their astrology signs are, I know that can be a dangerous thing these days.
I'm a Scorpio, so water signs. Let's go.
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Oh, I see. Steven left one of his their sentences. That dude has to take 11 showers a day with the amount that he sweat.
Whoa, okay. Another Scorpio, Gemini.
Ooh,
Okay,
another sentence.
yeah. And the sentence that someone plugged in is what would TJ say to you if his precious son died because of you? Died because he turned his back on everything his family stands for to stand beside someone who is not who he says he is. So a lot of intrigue there, a lot of I don't know, that line definitely makes me intrigued because I'm like, oh, this is
Mhm.
in a heated moment. What's happening around it?
The zodiac sharing, and it's like I see a bunch of Saggies, Pisces, um, some Scorpios, all of July birthdays apparently.
Wow, okay. In all honesty, I don't really know anything about most signs.
Okay, mood.
I just know that I think Aries tend to be interesting. It's either I really like people that are Aries or I'm kind of scared of them. And then Leos, it depends on the Leos. Some people in my family are Leos, and those people kind of scare me sometimes. But other than that, I'm not sure about the others. I can say, I mean, I love other cancers. So just throwing that out there. If there's any cancers out there watching. Okay, is it almost time for another prompt?
Oh, almost. We're almost there.
Okay, almost,
So
almost.
let's see. Y'all can keep going with sharing. Also, if anyone has questions for Prince, you can just share them at any time, and we'll try to get to
Yeah.
them. Maybe.
Yeah, I saw a question earlier in the chat, and I think it was asking about how I went about getting how did you get to publish your book?
Yeah.
I'll answer that really quickly. I mean, I started thinking about writing this memoir in around 2017, like a year or two after I was in college, and I wrote towards it. At the same time, I was freelance writing, which is when you pitch articles to publications. And I wrote 1 or 2 essays that got a lot of attention and that got the attention of literary agents. And so I worked with a literary agent in 2017, and then I worked with another one in 2019. And during that time, I was writing the book. And I finished the book in 2020, and I was revised it with my agent during the lockdown. So we worked on a chapter a week over FaceTime for I think about a half a year. And then at the beginning of 2021, we went on submissions. For people that don't know, book submissions is when your literary agent who's representing you in your work tries to sell your book to editors at publishing houses. And so I went on submissions. No one really said yes on the book. I was really discouraged. I got a bad book offer that I said no to. And then an editor in Ohio that I wrote some essays for, reached out to me personally and said, I want to read your book. I'm getting a job at this publishing house. I sent it to him. His name is Hanif Abdurraqib, an amazing writer. People don't know about him. I'll type his name into the chat because he does a lot of really amazing music and culture writing, especially a lot of writing about Black culture. And he liked the book, and the rest is kind of history. The overall story is much more complicated, but I don't want to tell you everything right now because there's like I had an agent at one point and then I didn't. And then when I got the book deal, I used the book deal to find agents that I was already trying to pitch it to. So there's a lot of, I had a sort of non-traditional route, I would say, but I loved my publisher though. I'll say that.
Long story short, I guess it's really long to publish.
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
Mhm.
Okay. So I say we go back to our next prompt, which is Prince's prompt. And if you all have any questions at any time, just like put them in the chat. You don't have to like hold on to them. I can scroll. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. The next prompt is explore a scene or story from your memory by reimagining it from an alternative perspective. Write an event from the point of view of a passing bystander, another person close to the event. It can be a pet, an inanimate object. When choosing your narrator, pay attention to how objective they would have been, what they would have paid attention to, and what sort of background knowledge they would have had about the scene. So essentially, pick a memory or a scene that you're working with and choose someone other than the central character to write about that scene from someone else's perspective. It can be a pet, a thing, a person. Yeah. And so this prompt is going to be 10 minutes. And I love this one. I did this one in a writing workshop when I was in high school, and I remember hearing everyone's stories, and it was so interesting.
Okay, so timer on. And again, if you don't want to use the prompt, that's fine. Write whatever brings you joy. Okay, 10 minutes. Let's go. And time's up. Feel free to post your word count, how the sprint went for you, or favorite snippet. So how did that go for you, Prince?
Oh, that one was a little more difficult.
Mhm.
I picked, um, I started writing thinking that I was writing about a scene at the end of Act One of my book, but then I just ended up kind of writing from a different character's perspective that I've never really explored. And he's kind of an antagonist in my book, but he doesn't also show up that much. And so it was really interesting trying to put myself in his mind and look at his psychology and personality. Yeah, it's weird when you do that with characters you don't like. I'm like, oh, wow, feel kind of weird.
Right. Um, for me, I picked a scene from the beginning of my book.
Mhm.
Basically, the main character is following this. It's basically really Alice in Wonderlandy, where she sees this like robotic bunny, and she's like, "Oh, I'm
Ooh.
gonna follow her." And then this bunny like kind of like takes her to like some wild like monster. But like, so I wrote from the bunny's point of view, and I like I don't know how this came about because, but I made it where the bunny knew she's being followed the entire time. And I feel like doing
Ah,
that, I was like, oh, that kind of changes things, actually.
yeah, yeah,
It's not accidental.
yes. I like that.
Ooh, a bunch of people are leaving their things in the chat.
Let's see, let's see. Um, okay, someone said I wrote mine from the POV of a bridge. My main character sleeps under at one point.
Ooh,
Um, and then the line is, she comes and goes in the night and sleeps when the sun bears down hardest on my asphalt. Other humans scuttle from her like beetles, but her face never deviates from its icy calm, her demeanor unshakably sure. Love that last, unshakably sure. I love that phrase.
ooh. I love like scenes where you do this from like an inanimate object.
Mhm.
It really challenges you, but it can be really
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Okay, written from the POV of their cat. Um, I picked the soul of Bizarre's child. I hope I said that
Ooh.
right. Yeah, and looking at the different word counts, some people said 198 words they wrote without a prompt. Someone else said 208. Someone else wrote 428, 115 words. Um, yes, yes, yes. I wrote, I just checked it. I wrote 352 words.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to find a line that I really liked. Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite line in what I wrote because I don't like the character I wrote from. So I'm just kind of like, I'll leave it where it is.
Sometimes just happens, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking through the chat. I'm kind of looking for other questions that people may have asked, because I definitely want to try to answer any things that people are asking out there. Let's see. Okay, someone said, what do you call it when you rewrite a novel you want it to like, but didn't deliver to make it what you wanted it to be? I mean, I feel like that's still kind of fan fiction, or I don't know if there's a word for, yeah, fan fiction, like fiction inspired by
Mm,
something you've already read. Yeah, I think it's still fan fiction.
yeah. I think a lot of things are like considered fan fiction. You just don't think about it that way.
Yeah, like Lion King is fan fiction. That's fan fiction from Shakespeare, kind of. Yeah. Okay, looking at other questions. Someone, ooh, let's see. Do.
Um,
Ooh, okay, how's everyone doing with their word counts during camp? Do you have any tips for writing an effective one sentence pitch? Tips for that, I mean, I think it depends on the genre that you're writing. But I think typically with creative nonfiction and fiction, I kind of view storytelling on both of those levels as you're kind of making an argument. So your argument is kind of the theme that you're exploring or navigating, and themes can be like an emotional truth, a philosophical question. It can be like a motto or a rule that a character has that is being challenged by the other story elements. And so to me, the argument is like the theme is the argument you're making, and then like everything that the story is comprised of, or all those different parts. So whether it's like characters that represent other philosophical kind of conflicts, or it's a setting that's really important and kind of changes the scope of your story. But essentially, I kind of mention these things because I think in a one sentence pitch, you're basically making an argument. So you want to get across what characters are involved, what the kind of arc of the piece is, and then maybe what themes it's kind of exploring. And then I think another tip that I have is like write something that's a few sentences long and then figure out how to shorten it as you revise your pitch. And so sometimes starting off by trying to just write a one sentence pitch can be really difficult, as opposed to writing more and then trying to shave it down.
That makes sense. There's one question that I saw, and I also really like it, so I kind of want to ask it. It's from Indie Figurable, and they ask, is it difficult to write about yourself with the intent to publish? How do you determine what to share and what not to share? Is it enjoyable to write about yourself, or is it somber?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think as a child of the internet and a child that learned a lot through the internet as a teenager, as a high schooler in college, like I was figuring out that I was gay. I was figuring out how I felt about myself and the world and my family. And so I think for me, at least, learning how to be vulnerable online, those were some of the easiest ways for me to kind of figure out who I was or what I thought. And so for me, writing about myself and publishing it is sort of a similar process. I mean, I think whenever you're writing about your life, it's important to set boundaries and figure out what you do or don't want to write about. And I definitely do that in everything that I write. I don't say everything. I don't share everything. There's certain things that aren't in my memoir that I just chose not to write about, whether it's about me or other people. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it can be somber, sometimes it can be really healing. But I think that's why I always try to find different coping mechanisms for when writing is difficult. So I make different playlists for different characters or different parts of the book. I have movies that I watch that kind of center me or remind me why I like storytelling. Or I have friends that I can kind of talk to and say, writing today was kind of weird, and we'll talk about why and kind of work through it. But yeah, I mean, it just depends on what you're writing and how you feel. But I'm glad I did it. I feel like I wrote a lot about things that I have always had questions about in my life. And I feel like writing was one of the only ways that I could really work through some of those things.
Oh, yeah, that was a really good question. I think we have time for like one more question before we get back to writing.
Yeah.
Okay. There's so many. I'm like sad we can't get to all of them, but
Oh, Lord. Okay, let's see. I see a question further down. What are other people saying? Dun, 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 dun. Okay, someone said, how do you deal with all of the pressures, both internal and external, to get the novel finished and sent out? I've been wrestling with my project forever. Um, that's a good question. I mean, this is a good question. I ask myself this too. I think trying to get something published versus writing it yourself and gaining something from just writing it yourself are two very different things. I think a story can be good, but the pressure to get it published can sometimes force us to rush or to try to meet a certain deadline. And I think every single story we write can essentially always be revised again. Like, I don't think any story is just complete when you say it's the final draft. I think there's always something you can change or would want to change later. But dealing with the pressure, I think it's just you have to figure out if the draft you have is expressing like a deeper truth compared to what you've written before. And I think as long as a draft is digging deeper and deeper, if you're hitting some kind of cohesive truth through telling that story, in my mind, that story is theoretically ready. I mean, that doesn't mean that certain things in it can't be improved, but I think it's important to understand that. And I think beyond anything else, a big tip I tell people is to fall in love with the process. And so before you worry about publication or anything, figure out how to make the world of your story as alive as possible, because the more alive it feels, the more excited you'll be about entering that publication process or entering the business side of things, even though the business side of things can still be hard. But I just think as long as you love the story, I mean, things will come eventually. And if they don't come eventually through traditional publishing, there are other ways to publish your work too. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that was good. I love the advice that you have to like love the process first, because it's like if you don't love the process, then it's really hard to do anything else. So just like
Yeah.
celebrate the fact that you're a writer, and that's like really cool.
Yeah. 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 Because for me, anytime I'm trying to sell a book, I usually start working on another story idea, because you just get so in your head, and sometimes trying to get published unfairly makes you judge your writing when you should probably just keep writing while the
Yeah.
business stuff is happening.
Okay. So that's we should be able to go right into our next prompt, which will be our last prompt. Um, so sorry we didn't get to everyone's questions, but y'all have a bunch of good ones. Okay, so our last one will write for like 10 minutes, and this one is write a scene where a character discovers a secret up in there the character, but by complete accident. How did they discover this? Was it eavesdropping, searching through things, or some other method? How do they react to this new info? Does the other character find out their secret has been revealed? Um, so yeah, kind of relates to our last or
Mhm.
our
This is a
first
good, this is a
one.
good one. I like this one,
So we'll
especially
write,
finding it out by accident. Yeah.
yeah. So let's write for 10 minutes. And okay, off we go. And that's time. So time's up. Since that was our last sprint, you can leave your final word count and just how writing went for you today. Yeah. Um, okay. Man, that was a pretty fun prompt. I think I'll revisit that one. Maybe
Yeah.
think about it as like a whole like actual scene because I'm like, man, there's something here.
Yeah, it's a very, and I feel like with working with someone finding out a secret, there's so many things at play. You have to like
Yeah.
figure out how it's being revealed and what is the secret and who is the secret being revealed to and I don't know. Yeah, this is a very interesting, yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely gonna have to think on this more. Didn't really write towards this, but I looked at what I'm revising of my novel and I
Mhm.
wrote more for a scene that's about a secret. So it did kind of help me figure out a little bit more. But yeah, this is it's a good prompt. Hmm. Let's see what people are saying. 251 words, 337 words, 396 words. Okay, so it seems like people wrote a lot. Yeah, and
Yeah.
someone final word count was
Ooh,
1095
that's
words. Oh
solid.
my gosh. Whoa. Okay. Speed demon. I can't remember how much I wrote total, but I think I probably wrote like maybe somewhere around 900 words total during this
Yeah.
project.
Um, yeah, this is y'all did good this writing stream. I'm
Yes.
always happy when y'all get some writing done. Even just a little bit. Remember, guys, words, they're just words. And no matter how
Mm-hmm.
much you write, you should celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the end of our stream. I have a few nano reminders for y'all. Remember to update your word count. Um, and also, since it is camp, you can change your word count goal, especially since it's the last week. So if you feel the need, do so. You can do that. Try it on your dashboard. And even though it is last week, we still have some events coming up. We have the community meetup on Thursday and the Fridays of Color virtual community meetup on Friday. And you can see them on here. And also, did you know that we're a community-centric fundraising organization? When our community is abundant, we're abundant too. So now through August 1st, all donors who make a one-time gift of $40 eligible to receive their own copy of the Heroes Journal. So you can get ready for November and start having your cool novel with cool resources. Here's the link to that July fundraising drive. But whether you give $5 or $40, the collective impact's always huge when we come together. So here's the link for like in general. And yeah, that's all for on the nano side. We're at the end of camp, but that doesn't mean y'all shouldn't keep writing. You're almost to your goal. And so, Prince, do you have any parting words or some encouragement to everyone?
I just want to say thank you. I have always loved National Novel Writing Month, so it's been really great for me to be here. I'm glad the prompts helped. I definitely think diving into secrets and kind of navigating character secrets is a really good kind of way to figure out where things are going or how turns will happen in your story. So this is also just kind of, I don't know, giving me more thoughts about that for my revisions. But yeah, thank everyone for letting me be here, and I enjoyed writing with you all.
Yeah, and again, here's Prince's website, his Substack, and remember, his memoir is coming out soon. So
Mhm.
go look it up.
Yeah, the paperback is coming out soon, August 22nd. Check it out if you like. My newsletter, I share a bunch of tips and reflections about being an emerging writer or writing reflections. I also post a lot on my own YouTube channel about my book tour and different writing tips and things like that. So find me online for any more help that you might need.
And yeah, um, So thank you again, Prince, for being here, and keep writing, everyone.